on a joint production between K24 and Kameme, a product of MediaMax. And with me is an interesting panel that is made up of Kasmuel Makure, a revolutionary artist. We also have Jackson Kuria Kehara, who is aka Kop Shakur, who happens to be a prison warder. And we also have Anthony Manyara, the president of the Kenya University Student Organization. And the discussion we are having today is centered on the right to recall, especially for the members of parliament, as that has been the next agenda after the list that we've had. But right now, allow me to move to Kop Shakur. Initially, we have had the discussions in the other studio talking about there being no structure for when the president exits, the deputy president exits, and the Speaker of the National Assembly exits. Even as we say, Ruto must go. So are we acting within the constitutional mandate?
First of all, I want to thank the young people who are the tipping point of this revolution. So we want to continue to press the government to try wafanya kazi yenye tunataka. And before tufike hata kwa ile place ya IBC to still to weke pressure, because the progress of this country is being threatened. The things that we care about are in question. So, and these young people, they are jobless, and watakuwa pale kwa street and wataendelea until the government hears. And I would like to call upon the government not to use force to rule these people, because we have seen, like the last 2 days, like yesterday, people were being shot on the streets, and it's so unfortunate that journalists were shot, meaning that the police are still using force. And I think I want to advise the people who are in government to stop using force and talk to these people if we want us to move forward as we wait for what's going to be done next. And we'll do it. We'll recall 1 or 2 MPs, and we'll table a motion for the impeachment of Zakayo.
Well, thank you very much. Anthony, among your very many qualifications, one of them is that you are in a class of law. And speaking of the push by Gen Zs, you know, to have all these changes, is the changes they're pushing for within the confines of our constitution?
Well, I want to allude to the fact that whatever all these young people are fighting for, it is within the confines of law. Simply because, take for instance these policies that have been brought forward even by the Education Committee of the National Assembly, the new funding model. These are issues which the young people have fought severally. They have done public participation, they have said we are rejecting this, and still the government has brought the same things. Talk about Higher Education Loans Board, the fund that they allocate to students. In the finance bill of 2024, they reduced that amount by 10%. That amounts to around 3.8 billion. These are the issues which these young people are fighting for, and even when they are fighting to ensure that these MPs are recalled, all they want is accountability. They have lost trust, the public confidence, they have lost trust in these MPs. This is why they are pushing for to have new leaders, new faces. And remember, comrades are not stupid people. These are people who are very wise. They know very well, you know, the forest. You can change one baboon, replace with another monkey. All these, you bring together the same political class, you reshuffle, you bring some people who have been in the cold, you bring them again as new faces. This is why the call for these Gen Zs, what they want is people who are qualified. When we are talking about, for instance, the CS for education who was there, CS Mashogo, who was very clueless. I will be very much shocked if the president brings someone of that stature again. We want someone who has the requisite knowledge, who has the experience, who can be able to handle that kind of sector in the way that we have confidence in. Remember, these students, they are not just fighting for their own causes. They have seen their parents struggle with school fees. Some universities have increased.
Interrupt you a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, you're talking about the CSS who are incoming, and here, what we're talking about, we still don't have trust with the government.
Yes.
So, and there are some people who are short, and it's very unfortunate that the president took to his ex-accountant condemned the killing of the US ex-president, and he hasn't mentioned anywhere about the shooting of the journalist who was shot in Nakuru. And before we even get to the CSS position, there's a lot to be done. People have been killed. There have been police brutality. No one has been brought to books, and we cannot go there without fixing these other issues. The same people that have died are the same people who are fighting for this revolution. Yeah, so before we get to there, justice should be done. People should be arrested. Right now, like, I'm an interdicted person because I spoke the truth, and there is a killer cop, a trigger-happy cop. I don't know if he's crazy or what. He's still there working for the government. We should not get until the people who have been fighting with us, justice should be done.
Again, all right, I have to be very clear.
Yeah.
I think what our colleague here is talking is something we can identify with. Some student from JKUAT, he was called Denzon Omondi. He was killed and dumped in a quarry, in a dump site. His body mutilated. Remember, even right now as we speak, Kasmuel here is receiving threatening messages. These people, the government, the police, they are still threatening these young people who are coming to the streets. What are they fighting for? Remember, these people, they are fighting for jobs. They want a better country with better accountability. How can 50 people die and then the government moves just like that? We want to see how it can be able to account. This person was abducted. His body was found in the city mortuary. What transpired? People are in fear because you are moving to the streets. You fight for the people, and then in the evening you are abducted. Kenyans cannot know when you are abducted unafanyiwa nini. You might be wanaenda wanakufanyia a lot of torture. Even before you die, there's a lot of pain. So I feel like even as we speak with the Secretary General for Jubilee Party, and even former CAS Zaki Kinuthia, they also need to tell us, can we hold the government into account? Where are these bodies? You see, me, I firmly believe even the 50 people, those are the ones that we know. Maybe we have lost a lot of lives, a lot of comrades in the struggle, and we want the government to be very transparent. They tell us where are they taking people, why are they doing so, and can we be able to, those families, how are they going to be compensated? Thank you.
All right, and even as we discussed that, there is a school of thought, Kasmuel, that yes, the government has heeded to some of the demands by the protesters, the Gen Z protesters. However, the protesters continue demanding, and some think that this might lead to anarchy. Is this the road to anarchy?
I do not understand where the government gets this perceived notion that we want the country to descend into anarchy. I do not know where in our activities we have said that we want our country to go into anarchy or our country to burn. When we were on the streets, what we were saying is we demand that corruption ends in government. We've demanded that we want the people who are governing us to be accountable. We have said that we want accountability from the ruling and political class. I do not know what people get this idea that we want the country to descend into anarchy, because if you look at the said demands that the government has met, they are just but bare minimums. If a president has fired people who he had hired unconstitutionally, he is just but doing his job. If a president has postponed the posting of members of an office which was held unconstitutionally, he is just but doing his job. So that's why we will say, I will not sit here and applaud a fish for swimming. I do not know if this is the way the president loves to be addressed by being surrounded by yes men, but I think it is a very dangerous thing that if he is surrounded by people who cannot tell the emperor when the emperor is naked, it gotten to the point where the president now has to face public shame because he was surrounded by an echo chamber, by people who are afraid to tell him this is where the country is going wrong. And I refuse to also believe that the president should do the groundwork. It just shows me the people who are surrounding the president are people who have such little to no regard of the people who elected them there. Because you see, even when the president yielded to the desires of the Gen Zs, when he recalled, and I say recalled in air quotes, when he said that he would recall the finance bill, which is also a very debatable topic, you still find that there are MPs who went ahead and said, while they just respect the decision of the president, they still would have voted yes. So in my head, how I see it playing out in State House, when these people meet the president, and the president asks, and then Manyara over here has been a politician. When the president asks, kiongozi ground iko aje? I believe that the people around the president wanasema ground iko salama, ground ina kuimba, wanasema uendelee hivyo vile unasema. This he should have seen way earlier, but he is preoccupied and surrounded by people who are only interested in lining their pockets and being on the president's good books instead of the Kenyans. And what they're forgetting is they are but our elected representatives. And you remember the cliche Article 1, which has brought so much pride in the Kenyan people, which says all sovereign powers belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance to this constitution. The people may, then they yield the powers to the people who might represent them. And so when you see the Gen Zs on the streets, we are heavy on the shall, because the people who we delegated the role who are in charge of the word may, have shown us time without number that they do not have our interests at heart. So when we say that Ruto must go, it is an ideology that he represents. And this system is currently not working at all. It is not dysfunctional, it is not working. So I'm asking, people are asking us what next, and we are like, even right now, we do not have anything. So for the ruling class, it feels as if we want to plunge them into anarchy because they have the funds that they could loot, they have things, they have properties all over, and it feels like they're going to lose something. But I want you to ask yourself, what's happening to the millions of the youth who have no job, who have studied and have no work? What happens to those people? Because as I've consistently said, corruption is tantamount to genocide. And when you steal money that is meant for a child's vaccination, it means there's a child who will not make it past a certain age. And you're not killing them by the ones, you're killing them by the millions. That's why we are saying, when we talk about corruption and the war against graft, it is a very serious war for us. It is a very, very serious clarion call. When we say Ruto must go, it is everything that he represents. It is everything, every person who is surrounding him. And so we are not asking the country to plunge into anarchy. If everyone is so obsessed with the question of what's next and what not, we would not have gotten independence if the Mau Mau fighters were obsessed in answering the colonialists' answer, the question, what next? So the ruling class should just shape up. If they just did what it is they were elected to do, removed that hubris which they want to show us over here, and just acted within the constitution, we would not be in this situation of political unrest. Again, I would love to remind the president that he said that no political officer will participate in public harambes. Barely a week later, he goes and he does a fundraiser for a church. I see that he's a double dealing man, and that has further lowered the amount of public trust that we had. It was already waning and it was going lower, but it has gone even lower if he says one thing and does the other thing. We see these MPs still coming us, trying to question us on morality, telling us that we cannot talk to a president like that. But the question we are asking, when they loot our funds, are they being moral? When they kill us, are they being moral? When they shoot us, are they being moral? When they rape our sisters and girlfriends, are they being moral? When they sell fake fertilizers, when they play with our food, when they play with our education, when they play with our land, are they being moral? So that's a question I've been asking and I'm grappling with. And I'm finding it very difficult to voice these things because what we are leading in terms of this revolution is not that we're trying to take power. Personally, I'm not trying to take power. It would be prudent if the political class actually listened and acted on these things, not politicized the issues and infantilized this movement. That's the thing which we're struggling with as a young person.
All right, and probably coming to Manyara, we are talking about trust, accountability and results. The process of recalling MPs, will this give room for that?
Well, just like Keoni said, it is very simple to recall an MP. We get those signatures, it is very simple. After we get the signatures, the due process will follow. I think within 1 or 2 months, I mean, those MPs will be back, we'll have the country getting back to elections, and then we'll elect people who we can be able to have confidence in. Yeah.
All right. Shakur, do you feel like now recalling the MP is the end move to attaining, you know, talk of trust, accountability, and even the results?
I think if we just recall like 2 MPs, then we will be telling them to do something. The remaining MPs will be telling them to do something. They'll be doing it genuinely, because right now they are being bought and they wanafikiria we can't do anything. But if we just recall 2 or 3, then tutakuwa tunaenda pale hivyo tunawaambia this is what as Kenyans what we want, and they'll be doing it for us.
And actually, you'll be very much surprised if these MPs are recalled. The faces we will see, we are not likely to reshuffle the same faces. People will vote now based on ideology, based on transparency, based on accountability. If a person is able to service people with decorum, with transparency, that is where we're headed as a country. We want people we can trust, public confidence. Yeah.
All right.
And also, I would like to, like, I think, like some 2 days ago, I was saying like we are heading in the right direction, but still you find like this, all the CSS who are walifutwa kazi, kuna wase wengine wako na issues of integrity, and firing someone is not enough. Like some few days ago, I saw a former CS with an expensive chronometer, an expensive shoes enye mse, kuna mse pale hivyo hata a save 2 years 3 years haizi nunua, alafu unakama una brag na sisi tunakuona una live lavish life, una get, unaenda na machopa, and that's not enough at you just being fired and uko na issues za integrity. We want people to be charged, we want people to be taken to court before we move to another step, because that will ndio itakuanga tu like tunafanya hivyo, like mtu anakuwa na corruption case anafutwa job, and we are not moving anywhere. Pesa zetu zina nini, like I say, it was like Murkomen, he said like wearing expensive things is my weakness. It's not your weakness, it's our money, and we want people to be charged before we start moving forward. Before this CSS are incoming, we want people to be charged. If tuambiwe like Linturi alifanya nini ndiye akafutwa, Kindiki alifanya nini ndiye akafutwa, and people should be taken to court, because hatuwezi sema tu tulifuta watu for no reason. Kuna issues of integrity hapo hivyo. Yeah.
And actually even the changes should extend even to the judiciary. Ukipeleka watu court, then they will maneuver their way, they will bribe, you know, some judges or some court people there. So what we want is that transparency equate from top to bottom, because either way, even if you ufute kila mtu na kuna change, and these people you take them to court, and the same people who are going to make the verdict or ruling, they are the same people who are waiting with the ones being questioned. I think that is not the way to go. We have to see how every sector, every agency, every parastatal, even in National Assembly, when I'm talking National Assembly, the bicameral house, both iko chini na juu, the ministries, all these sectors, we have people in place who Kenyans can trust, and they have confidence in delivering their mandate with trust. Yeah.
All right, and when you say that some members of parliament might find their way through the judiciary, we've seen the protest kicked off with the executive calling for the, you know, after the finance bill, calling for the doing away with all the CSs. And currently we are talking about the recalling of MPs. Now, when you say some MPs may have their way with the judiciary, are we looking at a time probably where the people now will be calling for reforms within the judiciary?
Well, I'm not just talking about the MPs. Remember, if for instance right now someone says that you are corrupt, they will go to EACC, they will have DCI investigate you. We want to see these agencies also having players there who can be able to be trusted, people who have qualified, they have experience, and their integrity level is top notch, so that this process, it is a transparent process, and we can be able to see this person is taken to court because of 1, 2, 3, and that person is gets a fair ruling, which the public can say, enyewe huyu mtu aliiba hii pesa na ameshukiwa hivi na amepata fine ya hivi, ama ameenda prison because of this, or remand, whichever it is.
Corruption.
What we are fighting for is corruption, definitely. These young people, they are not, remember, this country is very rich. It can be able to cater for each and every young person in this country. The only thing we need a government which can be able to expand manufacturing, processing, offer incentives to the private sector, have these companies also providing paid internships, pay these young people. We are supposed to live in a country in which a young person, akifika miaka tuseme 22, is employed, he is satisfied. We elect people in government not for them to reward their cronies. If you are an MP, you are elected. We have seen them getting children of their cronies wanawapea bursaries. We have seen MPs profile people in those constituencies. You make sure that you have condemned a certain family to poverty simply because they didn't support you in the campaigns. And now we are changing the narrative to ensure that this leadership we expect in these constituencies, they are issue-based. They are people who have the genuine interest of the people at heart, so that each and every young person in this country has a chance of living in a decent manner. Remember Vision 2030? It was an architectural blueprint which was talking about every Kenyan having a decent living. If you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, from number 1 to number 4, they talk about how you improve the situation, the life surrounding a person. If you look at African Union Agenda 2063, they also talk about how in this era, in this generation, you don't have to have your father at Yaliba Shamba in 1990s or 80s. That if your parents was has been poor, doesn't mean that you also have to be poor. You have an equal chance. You have gone to university. You have done kama mimi nilifanya architecture. How many architects have graduated even from the university have jobs or even gotten internships? Very many people are jobless out there. These people who are in the streets, they are angry.
Talking for genuineness and people who are genuine, you are among the people who are supporting the house levy, and house levy has affected in vile tuko hapa hivi, hizi vitu zimekuwa zinakutujaa. Like there is a saying in Tennessee, in Texas, in UK, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. A fool can't be fooled again. You people started by fooling us about the house levy. Nini, when Zakayo was campaigning, he never talked about like forcing us into house levy. He akawanunua nyinyi mkakuja huku nje mkaanza kusupport this house levy. Right now, because mmetudanganya sana and we are tired and mmejua you can't lie to us again, I think sasa mmeanza kuja side yetu, you know. And this what we are speaking about hapa hivi ni genuine people. Are you genuine?
Good question, Manyara.
Let me respond to that. First of all, there is something we call affordable student accommodation. A student, there's
we are
no
talking
student
about
in
the
this,
house
there's
levy.
no student
The house levy. Yeah.
Remember this.
Mlituforcisha house levy.
Agenda. I'm not the one who initiated housing levy. This is a government project. Personally,
but
I
you
represent
supported
students.
it.
I represent students in the entire nation, right?
Yes.
These students, we have seen how they suffer. I was the president for the University of Nairobi. So
we are talking about the house levy.
How
do you relate house levy and student suffering?
Now this is why I'm telling you.
Yeah.
We supported some aspect of it, leveraging on affordable student accommodation. Whereby,
you know, one of the things that has led to us being fed up with their lies is it started with the house levy. Everyone was against the house levy. How genuine are you that we?
You know, my loyalty is to comrades, is to university students. University students.
As far as I'm so concerned, there was no any university student who was earning.
Ikikuwa collected na iende ijenge watu huku manyumba huku nje. Not every Kenyan will benefit, but us, we found a path in which ni kama venye tu Azimio sahi they have talks. Even you can ask Kioni. Right now they are negotiating to have a dialogue. As we went ahead and we agreed this housing levy, hii pesa yote isipotee iende
I know you're not a genuine person, but I love the way you umekubali like wase wako walishindwa and umeanza kuja
side. All right. Allow me to push the conversation forward even as we talk about that. And even now taking you back to the point where we are talking about recalling our members of parliament, just probably to go to at an individual level. What are you doing? What are your fellow Gen Zs or other youth doing in preparation for that?
I think it's time for us to now face ourselves as Kenyans and tell each other the truth, which we've long not gotten the chance to reflect upon. The political class has failed us absolutely terribly. But this political class is a resultant of our actions. It is resultant of our decisions. Some of the people that you can see drive the movement online are people who campaigned directly for this government. Some of the people who are now very vocal are people who laughed at the people who voted differently from this government. And as Kenyans, we have enabled this culture. Because we expect tokenism from Mheshimiwa, where somebody will not be elected because of the policy which they stand for, but by the depth of their pocket, but by the tribe by which they stand for, but because the tribal leader has said this. And this takes us into a very slippery slope, in the sense that out of all these members of parliament that we see, I can only account for maybe Senator Omtata and the MP, not even, I would talk maybe about the MP for the senator of Embu. That's the one who I saw, this is a person who was elected actually just because they were poor. If you look at a parliamentary campaign, it costs maybe 10 to 30 million. If an individual spends that kind of money, you expect them, just thinking the way we human beings reason, you expect them to recoup. And that's where this attitude comes from. So even before I get to the recall process, part of the civic education that we need to do, because if we recall one person and elect using the same standard that we've always used, there's no need to recall a single MP then there's no use for this Ruto must go hashtag, because it means we have not been transformed in our minds. If we do not change the pattern by which we vote, if we still vote tribally, if we still vote for the person who gives us the most money, if we still vote as a birthday present to a person, if we still vote to punish another person and not for the idea, we are still going to be in the same problem which we found ourselves. That said, after we change our minds as Kenyans, because those political people, the people of the political elite, also are Kenyans. They are our fellow Kenyans, because we cannot elect these people unless they convince us. The political class is a true reflection of who we are as Kenyans. When we look at the political class, this rotten political class, this selfish political class, this corrupt political class, it represents half of the population of the voters plus one. That is who you are as a Kenyan, and if we do not change that, if we stop voting, if we do not stop voting for tribal politics and saying, I will not give this man a vote because he's Luo, because he's Dorobo, because he's a Chonyi or a Jibana or a Sabaot, if we still vote along those lines, we will find ourselves in these similar problems. The reason why we want to also overhaul the entire system is, if we bring good people into a dysfunctional system, if you bring Manyara or Shakur or myself into a cabinet that's not functional, into a cabinet that has to bow to a higher power that is corrupt, there is no way we will succeed. That's why we are trying to overhaul this entire system. Sequentially now moving to the process of recall, because you've asked me the question. This is part of what I am doing. I am doing civic and voter education. And what I've done for the past minute or so is part of challenging, these are your beliefs. Trying to, when we still expect people to privatize public problems, you find churches building hospitals and schools. Where do churches get the money? They will have to take them, because the people who bring in the most money are the political elite, because the offerings do not match the amount of money that the political elite can bring. Functions of the central government or government in general being delegated to things like the church is what brings the rot in the church that we see. That is why you found that we are also complaining that the churches have been silent, but they go for brown envelopes in State House. It is by design, I think. So until we change our minds, until we get to the point where we acknowledge that we have been a horrible voter populace for a very long time, recalling MPs has no effect. Remember, I hope we do, but if we do not succeed with this whole Ruto must go agenda, if we have to withstand 3 more years of governance, we need to remember that by that time, if we are not consistently educating, learning and re-educating ourselves, we will fall into the same pitfalls. Coming to what I'm doing personally, beyond the voter and civic education, which is my right and duty, it is in ensuring that I agitate for people to get IDs. Part of the agenda we want is that the young people can get IDs. I'm not saying that IDs could expire. That's totally fine. But they cannot be charged at 1,000 shillings. Bring back that fee to 100 shillings. Passports should expire as well, because all passports all over the world expire. But do not make that process so bureaucratic. In terms of assessing, we need to see, this is what my MP said in his manifesto, this is how he has done. We need to give them a score sheet so that we are not punishing them, because again, there are people who are trying to hijack this agenda to settle political scores. So there is someone who will want to fund the people who look like they are most vocal to push for the recall of a particular MP, and I think I am recalling them on good ground, but I am being used as a pawn in a much larger chess game that I do not understand. So I want us to go into active reading, active study for ourselves. My friend Wanjiru said we have to caucus and have these town hall meetings, which we have been doing beyond the spaces. We have insulted these people enough, then they've shown us they do not care. It is time for us to organize and say, chuma chenyu ki motoni. As we go on, as we push this agenda, we need to ensure that we've made it absolutely clear that the Kenyan voter right now and into posterity will not vote along the lines that the Kenyan voter has been voting for. And the political class has to get that into their noggins.
All right. Thank you very much. And now, even as we wrap up, I'd love to ask a very closed-ended question, starting with you, Kasmuel. And it's a yes or no question, even as we move ahead.
Okay.
So do you still believe that you are tribeless, partyless, and leaderless as Gen Z?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely believe that we're partyless, leaderless, fearless, tribeless, and peaceful most of all.
Yeah, me, what I believe is, like, our leader right now is the Constitution of Kenya. And what I'd like to advise the young people, hapa kuna cha tribe. Kwanza, anyone who tries to bring up kitu yati anafaa kupewa like 8 years position, that is our enemy. And down ni wase wenye anajaribu kutumia like this movement kuachieve vitu mbaya. Hapa hivi in this revolution hakuna cha tribe.
All right, Manyara?
Yeah, I believe that we are tribeless, we are leaderless, and we are focused. So mine is to tell comrades out there, long live the defiant, the most ruthless, and the most stubborn, the most revolutionary spirit of true comradeship.
Long live, long live.
All right, well, indeed, Brian, that right there has been Kasmuel Makoure. That is a revolutionary artist. We have Jackson Kurekehara, aka Kop Shakur, who also happens to be a prison warder, currently interdicted. And we also have Anthony Manyara, the president of the Kenya University Student Organization. And clearly, you have heard what they've had to say about the right to recall as well as the conversation on governance in this country. For now, allow me to give it back to you, Brian. I'm David Kagina.
All right, thank you so much, Kagina. Of course, I hit a debate from that particular studio with the nation's youngest generation airing out their views and saying, by the way, it is time for change in this particular country and we are not stopping. Joining us also tonight is Steve Mbugwa, who is a council member LSK. Thank you so much, Steve, for making time for this conversation tonight. And let me just throw it to you. You see, change has already started. The issue that has to do with governance in the country, the young people, of course, we've been listening in to what they had to say, and they're not stopping at, at this particular point. They didn't stop at the reject finance bill. Right now, they are in the process of wanting to punish members of parliament, and also they are going all the way to the presidency. But back to the issue of members of parliament who want to be punished. Does the grounds for recall that have been stipulated in the Constitution and what we are fronting right now as one of the reasons that they need to go home, will it hold water at the end of the day?
I think, and thank you very much for this opportunity, and I want to say a very high salute to all the patriots out there who have been on the forefront to fight for this liberation of this country, especially on the rule of law, because the sweetness about in this country is nobody is fighting saying mtu wetu needs to be in government, mtu wetu needs to be given a share in government. People are just advocating for the respect of the rule of law, the respect of our constitution, and we have noticed for a long time most of the people who have led us in government, especially parliament and the executive, most of them have had serious issues of accountability and issues of integrity. And so the issue of recalling members of parliament based on that, we have so many of them who fall short of that particular requirement and even fall short of Article 10 of our constitution. So that is not news, because if you can remember, I think some times back we saw some of the governors being stripped of their position because of court matters which are pending in court, and those are just a sample of guys who managed to be taken to court. So it is a serious problem around the country, but what I would encourage Kenyans and especially constituents who intend to recall their members of parliament, it's also very important that we become more proactive in holding them personally accountable for the gross violation of the Constitution, the areas they have violated, the things that we can pick out from their conduct in managing the public resources by patronizing the NGCDF, because that has been one of the biggest channels of misuse of public funds by the members of parliament.
Okay, let me come to this, because you see, like I said, one of the reasons that has necessitated this particular debate is voting yes for the Finance Bill 2024. Yes. Now, moving forward, if this particular process is to ever start, maybe in about 30 days from now, what else could people look at and say, let us incorporate this one? Yes, we feel betrayed on one particular front, but also for it to hold ground, we need to incorporate something. What do they need to look at?
This one I wish to answer as a youth in this country, and what I would say is the issue of finance bill, from the observation of the things that have been moving on in this country, was more or less a catalyst of the pending underlying issues. So the question and the concerns I think Kenyans and citizens will be looking out for is how their CDF have been managed, because I think that has been one of the major issues on how the parliamentarians have been misusing the funds on distribution of some of these assets. You find they are buying a bus which is supposed to cost 5 million, you find they have been billed at 10 million. There's some instance, I think when some years back you will see a toilet being quoted some very high and strange amount that you as a as a person who has built a house or developed some property, you're wondering whether those are the current market rates. So there are various issues, but they need also, and it's good to put some serious warning also to the constituent. It's good to also have proper support, because at the end of it all, everything that is being done has to be done according to the due process, and we cannot just hate you and recall you. We have to have substantive reasons and grounds as to why you need to be kicked out. And how did you manage the funds? Which articles of the Constitution have you violated, especially on integrity and accountability? What are the various issues we have noticed in your term as a member of parliament for the last 2 years you have done, which are which violate the Act of Election Act, or even some of those things that may also be of distraction to the repute of. Okay, so
there's quite a number of issues that we could actually be looking at when it comes to, trying to make this particular process meaningful and also bear fruits at the end of the day. Let me come to you, Zaka, and this is the thing. Some people could look at it, and I know you talked about this earlier. Some people could look at it and say, okay, it could be an exercise in futility. And earlier on we ran a story, people saying, okay, it is one mistake that you've done, but we could give you a chance to redeem yourself in the process. If you were to rate what the members of parliament have done ever since they were elected in office in the year 2022 to this particular moment, do they deserve to go home, or do they still have a chance to redeem themselves?
In my own assessment, cross-cutting political divide, members of parliament have done extremely well as far as enriching themselves is concerned. Members of parliament have actually, all of them, gotten a home to go to. You could see that some of the homes that were attacked by Kenyans, they are extremely beautiful palaces. These are mansions akin to which we are promised by religion in heaven. So some of these people are driving top of the range fuel guzzlers. So members of parliament must be given to it. They have done extremely, most abundantly beyond what even their wives, husbands, children, families expected they would do. But that is not why they were elected by Kenyans. They would have gone to business, to legal practice like him and I, to make money and buy those things. They were sent by Kenyans to parliament to legislate. Legislation means making laws that alleviate the pain of the economy for Kenyans. Have they? They have made laws. But have they made laws that alleviate Kenyans? No. They have made laws that exacerbate the pain, including Finance Bill 2023, Finance Bill 2024, reassignment and misappropriation of money. They have reduced budget for education. Capitation is virtually going negative everywhere, from primary school FPE to secondary school FDSE to capitation for TVET, which was 30,000 in my time as an assistant minister. Now it is 17,000. They have removed all all the subsidy that had been put by successive governments, including the colonial government, for university education. So all the people who are in the villages and in the city are suffering under mismanagement of law-making process by our members of parliament. Kenyans sent members of parliament to go and do something else called oversight. Have they been oversighting our money? Have MPs been calling for accountability for national government? Have they been asking for accountability in governors, counties? Have they? No. The last thing they were told to go there and do was to represent them. Which MP, in your own assessment, my brother, has been representing people where I come from? In Muranga, I come from a constituency called Kigumo. A random picking of people in Kigumo cannot tell you they are represented by their MP. Okay? In any case, they tell you that they have been misrepresented. Okay. If you go to Mombasa, the same pain. You go to Nyando, Kisumu, the same pain. You go to Masabit, the same pain. So, as far as the mandate of the MP is concerned, making laws, oversighting the government and all tax-consuming institutions, as well as representing our people, they have failed. And therefore, what do I call for? I call for nothing less but what Gen Zs are saying, anguka nayo. Okay.
Let me come to this. And this, you see, members of parliament, of course, we said their function is legislation in the National Assembly. Some of the comments that we read earlier and some of the people that we've spoken to in different parts of the country say, you know, have this particular issue. Say, my member of parliament is in the house, but I've never heard them speak. And we've got this rhetoric from different members of parliament that maybe, quote unquote, have not been very active when it comes to matters legislation in the house. But at the end of the day, they say, okay, I might not be speaking in the house, but when you go to the ground, my impact is felt as far as development is concerned. How does this go about? How do people get to feel the representation of their member of parliament? Should it be when it comes to matters legislation, oversight, and passing laws in this particular country, or should it be on issues to do with development, making sure that a road somewhere is constructed, a school somewhere is constructed, and things like that?
My brother, I think I want to take this opportunity to condemn every MP who hoodwink the people who voted them in the name of development. Member of parliament has no mandate in ensuring that the constituencies, the counties, the wards, and the country is developed. It is not their role. And I'll give you a good example. Every MP got about 100 million and 20 for CDF. But CDF is a ring-fenced money that goes to three things: security, goes to education, and goes to other things, I think disaster and whatever. So this money is given to members of parliament as patrons. They are not the one managing it. There is a national office called National Government Constitutional Development Fund. It's a whole secretariat in Nairobi that send 290 people in every constituency that they employ with their money, who are called constituency manager. A constituency manager is an employee of government, is not an employee of member of parliament. Now, in an unlikely situation, God forbid, an MP dies. Already we have two constituencies that has no MP. One is in Banisa Mandera. We have another one in Kilifi, Magarini. There are no MPs there. But the development that is supposed to happen there is being conducted by national government and county government as per the Schedule 4 mandate. Secondly, the money that goes to bursaries, the money that goes to schools infrastructure, the money that go to education wholesomely, that money is being expedited. 100 million is going to Banisa, as it goes to Kigumo, as it goes to Kandara, as it goes to indeed Dagoretti South. This money is still going there. And this money is being utilized because there is a functional office run by government through the arm of NGCDF. So any MP who tells the people I don't speak in parliament, like Sudi, I am seen in my work, that is an MP who takes people for fools. He has no respect. And I think in their mind, these are the MPs who walk every day saying, my goodness, all my voters are idiots. Idiots will never know it. My political idiots will never know it. These are robots. But I tell the people, MPs' work is simple. If you have to speak about development, go to parliament, articulate the development that you want, take that to the committee involved, Let this committee take these things to Committee of National Planning and Finance. Let this committee take this thing for finance bill. Once your projects have been put in the relevant ministry as a budget item, that road will come. Okay. And it is not your work to do anything else but to take that to the committee. Once you take it to the committee, what do? You oversight that money. Ensure that the money that was passed for, say for instance, a road from where I come from, the Mau Road, from Ikombe all the way to Karinga, all the way to Kagondo, all the way to Kenyona. The MP should go and bring that money to the Committee of Road. Once the money has been scheduled, it is his responsibility to go and ensure the government is doing that job. And not just doing the job of constructing the road, but doing the job excellently without using monkey tricks. This is a work of the MP. And therefore, an MP must speak in Parliament, represent the people elected him in Parliament, and stop hiding under these nonsensical issues that
the issues of development.
Yes,
and all that. And,
development is not the work of the MP.
Okay.
Lakini, my brother, why do they speak in the barrio? If they cannot speak in Parliament, why are they speaking in barrio?
Because they need to be felt on the ground. That is what they want to say. Let me come to you, Steve.
Yes.
You know, Zakia mentioned that Dagoretti South. Do you come from Dagoretti South?
Yes, that's my constituency.
Your member of Parliament, you know, made headlines for the wrong reasons. Do you believe he needs to go home?
I want to tell you, I don't want to comment that because of a political statement.
Okay,
but I know the constituents of Dagoretti South will take the necessary action to any leader who is misappropriating their funds and who is not representing them right. Because if you look at Article 95 of the Constitution of Kenya, highlights 6 heads on the role of the Parliament, and I can quickly mention them for the purpose of the public. Okay. One of them is the National Assembly represent the people of the constituencies and special interests of the National Assembly. They deliberate and resolve issues of concern to the people. They enact legislation in accordance with Part 4 of the Constitution. Of this chapter, the National Assembly determines the revenue allocation, the appropriate funds and expenditure of the government. We are also reminded that they review the conduct of the office of the president, the deputy president, and other state organs, and they also exercise oversight over state organs. So when you are seated in the House, and also approve now declaration of wars and all those things of emergency. So when we are asking ourselves, is my MP doing the job? We need to be looking at those issues. Is my MP representing the interest of the constituency in the Parliament? Is the MP oversighting the government and the state organs on the appropriation of funds? Is the MP oversighting this project and how the funds are being used? Is the MP approving now the budgets that are required to bring development in this country? Before we go to now at how many roads has the MP built? MPs they don't have the role to build roads, and that's why I think the High Court of Kenya has pronounced itself on the issue of MPs' involvement with the CDF money, because they don't have any role on that, and it's not their business to pull that. But for a long time, members of the public have felt in this hoodwinking, and I think it's time people also learn, because unless you learn the responsibilities, you will not be able to even recall an MP, because you don't even know whether they have performed or not.
Exactly.
Some of them will be trying to recall them, and then someone reminds you, but they built the road, they brought a bus for this school. The question is, was that their duty, and are they the ones who brought the bus? And even if they were not the members of parliament, would that bus have been brought in that particular constituency?
I have no idea how we got to the point where we are measuring their performance based on what they've build instead of matters legislation, but that's a conversation for another day. Let me ask you this before I throw you to Linda to take us through what people are saying online. The process of recall at this particular moment seems to be a little bit tedious. How can we make it easier when it comes to recalling a member of parliament? Are there things that we need to look at in this particular process and say, okay, this one is a little bit tricky, it makes it hard for the process to actually be initiated? Because to some extent, because I was speaking to some of the youth and they were like, okay, at this particular moment, we feel like this is going to take more time. By the time we're done with this particular process, we'll be heading to 2027. So instead of trying to recall at this particular moment, let's just wait and go to the ballot and vote them out. So how do we make the process easier? And do you believe it is a tedious process?
I don't think the process is tedious because if voting, people are able to vote within a day, and you find 1 million plus people have voted. So if people have intention to recall a member of parliament, to raise 30% of the votes, of the signatures, will not take a lot of time. Why? Most of the constituency, apart from those in highly populated areas, most of them don't have a lot of people. If a place has 40,000 people, 30% of that is a very small number to raise. But all these issues also depend on the aggrieved constituents and how determined they are to do this, because the rhetorics that we have had for a long time, and I think that is what led us to even the protests we have witnessed across the country, is the fact that people say things but they don't follow them up, and that's why you will see some of the cartoons which were in the paper dailies today will describe as if it's a passing wind. This is just another passing wind which came around and moved. But for this issue to have a life, and for the constitution to have a life, because as I mentioned in the discussion, in the start of the discussion, the call this time around is not about our person. The call is a bigger call that whether you're in politics or not, whether you're in government or out, is going to help you, because it's a call about respect to the rule of law, which affects your daily activities, which affect your rights in various ways. And that's why you find sometimes you may keep quiet when you see a protester being harassed in town, but tomorrow you'll be arrested on your way home and you'll be harassed, and no one is going to raise that question unless the issue was addressed on police harassment and the misuse of police power. You will find yourself this to be a recurrent issue across the country. So this is a matter that if there are people, and we know and we have concrete information, they have violated the constitution, they have misused public funds in our constituency level, we need to initiate the process and not look at it from a tedious process, the same way we don't find it tedious to wake up and vote. If there was a by-election today called within 90 days, people will mobilize and campaign and get out and vote.
One of the things that puzzles me also is you recall a member of parliament, and also the constitution does allow them to vie again when there's a by-election. I think if I was to change that, maybe we could change that. I want to take it to Linda. Linda, how are you? And what is happening on the social platforms? What are people saying as far as this conversation is concerned? Are they ready to recall their members of parliament? If not, why? If yes, what are they saying? Linda.
And we've received numerous responses from Kenyans across the country with varied opinions on whether to recall their members of parliament from wherever they're coming from. And from K24 TV on X, as well as K24 TV on Facebook and across all the social media platforms, as well as Kameme TV Kenya on Facebook, X, and on WhatsApp as well. Kenyans have been speaking. I don't know whether my director Jackso can just give me some of the feedback. We can sample here just to see what they have to say. Well, we have James Njoroge from Nyandarua. Our MP has neglected infrastructure development and our roads are still in poor condition. That's one from Nyandarua. Let's go to Kiambu. Despite my many promises, our MP has not addressed the water shortage issues in our area. Let's move on. Peter Omonde from Siaya. Our MP has been absent from critical community meetings and is out of touch with our needs. Next, we go to Meru County. Alice Mudhoni says there is lack of transparency in how funds are being used. We need someone more accountable. And from Meru, we head straight to Bomet County. Joseph Kiplangat says healthcare facilities in our region are still under-resourced and our MP has done little to improve the situation. From Bomet, we head straight to Kitui County. Patricia Mwikali, youth unemployment remains a major issue and our MP has not implemented any effective programs to tackle it. And we move to Bungoma County. Our MP has failed to address the rampant corruption in local projects, leading to wastage of resources. And from Bungoma, we head to Kisii County. Rebecca Cheng, educational support for our children has been lacking, and our MP has not prioritized these essential needs. Let's move on. Let's keep sampling. Simon Dongo from Laikipia County. Security in our area has deteriorated. And our MP has not taken, our MP has ignored the plight of farmers struggling with low market prices and high production. Those are just some of the feedback. I don't know whether we have any other. Well, that's from Bungoma County, Kisii, Eldoret. We have so many counties, and Kenyans really wants to chime into this conversation. But thank you for joining this conversation today. Thank you to all Kenyans who have shared their views on whether they would recall their members of parliament. The feedback highlights the diverse opinions and concerns from different regions across the country. While some believe that the MPs deserve more time to fulfill their promises, others feel let down by unmet expectations and unaddressed issues. This conversation underscores the importance of accountability and responsiveness from our elected leaders. Well, that is all from me. My name is Linda Koske. I throw it back to you, Brian Amwai. Good night.
All right, thank you so much, Linda, for taking us through the feedback of what Kenyans are saying. And I want to engage my guests here for the final remarks as we wind up on this conversation on the process of recall. Let me start with you, Zach, as we wind up just in another 2 minutes. This is the thing. People are watching this particular show tonight, and most of the feedback that you've been able to see here, there's a lot of people that are very dissatisfied when it comes to their members of parliament. Seems to be agreeing with you to some extent when you are trying to rate them on how they've performed ever since they were elected. If they want to go through this particular process and say, I want to start holding my member of parliament accountable for the actions that they take, and I want to punish them because I feel they have not represented me, I want to put someone there that is going to represent my needs, I do not have to wait until 2027. If they are watching it tonight, lay down for them the process that will be successful by the end of it.
Thank you.
Just under 2 minutes.
Thank you, Brian. And let me, in defense of also the members of parliament, let me also put it this way to Kenyans who are watching us. It is unfair to demand all the things I've seen people demanding there from members of parliament. Yeah. Members of parliament cannot do those things. It is not their role. Like water. Let me put an example. It is not the failure of MP.
This is the thing. If you took to the campaign platform and said, I'm going to give you water.
They have to lie to the bed they made. First of all, they suffer because they lie. When an MP come to address the people and tell them, I will bring water, I will build roads, all the bridges will be connected, every child will go to hospital and find free drugs there. I am going to ensure women don't get old and men do not pick their nonsense, please. Okay. So the things you lie about, you will suffer for them. Okay. But to tell Kenyans just straight on, it is not fair that MPs are also the Leviathan. That MP is a solution to anything. Every time you see an MP, all your solutions are sorted there. Okay. MPs cannot do that. Right. So members of parliament, as has been told by my colleague here, Wakili, members of parliament have distinct roles. The governor has his distinct roles, and water is an almost wholly defunded function, devolved function. So if there is a problem of water, the first person you should go for, and I'm saying this as my last comment to Kenyans, if there is a problem of water in your constituency, the person to go for first is not your MP. It is your governor. If there is a problem of road, the person to go to first will be the national government if it is grade A, and grade B, and grade C, and grade D. So if it is governors,
some of these things you're saying then need to be the process of occupying counties. Should be pushing for some of the things that.
That's why we are telling Gen Zs today. I believe tomorrow there will be demonstrations across the counties tomorrow. Kenyans who go to counties, they should go armed with the Constitution Schedule 4 to see that if there is a problem with nursery schools, if there is a problem with vocational training centers in your area, it is not your MP. Let's be honest, it is your governor who is failing. Okay, so governors and presidents, which is executive, are the one mandated with the development of your country. Not the senator, not the woman rep, and not the MP. The MP can only do so much in grading Kera roads. But that money is in the CDF. That money is passed through the CDF from Kera, so that small roads within the constituency are made there. So, dear Kenyans, as we go to sleep tonight, I want to ask you, young people, to speak for your rights, because the day you don't speak, it is the day you start rotting down.
Okay.
But even as you speak, be reasonable, be measured, and have a goal. What do you want? If you want MPs to perform their duties, we must hold them responsible on the duties we elected them to do.
Okay.
And MPs should stop lying to the people.
All right.
Recalling an MP is very easy. Under the new judgment that was a petition by Katiba Institute,
Okay,
it is provided for in Article 104,
All right.
as read together with Elections Act of 2011, Section 45 and Section 46. It is not a difficult job.
Okay.
But you cannot impeach an MP that he's not picking your call. You
Okay.
cannot impeach an MP that is not making water
Thank you
and
so
roads and
much
those
for
things. The grounds for dismissal of an MP which is recalling
Yeah.
are clear.
In the
You guys
Constitution, of
have a
course.
very good night.
Okay.
See you when you see me. Good night.
All right, Steve, I want you to wind up for us here. And my question is still, somebody's watching tonight, and I'm giving you a minute kindly. Somebody's watching tonight and want to know what would be the best way to go about it that does not have, you know, loopholes at the end of the day. If they want to start the process tonight or after 30 days, that is maybe after the 10th of August, in just under a minute, how do they go about it and just make sure that it's a successful process by the end of it?
I will repeat and say and let the Kenyan to understand that it's important when we are holding, and echoing what my colleague Zach has mentioned, when we are holding them accountable, we hold them accountable on the job description and the grounds for these violations. And with that, and with clear evidence that some of them have been at the center of misuse of public funds, because as of now, they have been the patrons of this particular kitty under the NGCDF. But for you to also accuse them of misappropriation, you need to have concrete evidence of their involvement on how, either through their proxies or through their family members tendering these businesses, or through their friends. And then you have to have information implicating how the money was spent and by whom, and how they have been conducting themselves in regard to the duties they have under the Constitution, and areas they have violated the Constitution. If it is integrity, if it is issues of accountability, you need to be very clear, because it can be an exercise in futility if you don't have this information and you don't provide it concretely. So for those who intend to recall their members of parliament, just ensure you have done your background check well and get the right facts, seek the right advice. Because I have listened to even some of the comments from the members of the public, some of them don't understand this, and that's why we have been, the Law Society of Kenya have been on the forefront to also provide a lot of civic education in some of these governance issues, because most of the Kenyans are not able to raise concerns because they don't even know who is supposed to build the road or to bring their water or to sort some of these problems that are within our town. So it is rightful, it is...
And I'm running out of time, and I'm sorry for that. If somebody tables and says the reason as to why I want to recall my member of parliament is because of this particular, one road was not constructed and we don't have a borehole, that does not hold water.
Now for the issue, you cannot just go and raise that as an issue, because it needs to show how whether it was their role and how their involvement was not done. Because we have to be honest, as we advocate for the rule of law, we need to remember it is protecting you and also giving you, protecting the other person.
Okay.
And but the right to recall is a constitutional right. If the members of parliament are not performing their business, they are not doing their job we send them to do in parliament. Some of them have served for quite some time, so there is a lot of cumulative reasons why people are angry with them, and it's good for you to focus and to know how they have violated their constitution during this particular term. And also, secondly, it's good people to know that even the right to protest, because there have been a lot of issues, and I want to mention this as I wind up. There have been a lot of stories and a lot of bashing on what next. That should not be the question. The question should be, why are people protesting?
Okay.
Why are they protesting? If they are protesting about their right to health to be dealt with, let us address that. And the relevant quotas in the government and the ministries and the departments that are supposed to deal with that to be held accountable.
Okay.
If there is misappropriation of funds, we hold these people accountable, so that we don't keep on asking the question of what next, what is the next course of action, instead of addressing the concerns. And also, as the youth, we continue to agitate for good governance. we also become a bit, we ensure we concretize the ideas and the concerns in a way that is palatable to the public, and to avoid misinterpretation and misunderstanding, because that is what now makes a revolution die.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is Stephen Bugwa, who is a council member LSK, and also Zaki Nuthia, who is former CS. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for this conversation. Of course, the process of recall, if you want to initiate that, of course, we've been having a conversation here in studio, and from 6 p.m. all the way to this particular time, and 11 p.m. tonight. I believe that you've gotten something from this conversation. If you want to start initiating the process of recall, you now understand how to go about it, what to look for, especially if your member of parliament has not been performing to your expectations. My name is Brian Amwai, and as the conversation goes online, if you want to increase the pressure, continue increasing the pressure. Member of Parliament, thank you so much for your time, and for everyone that made this one a success tonight. I do want to thank you so much for watching all the way from our Swahili team at 6 p.m. led by Busara Naman to this particular moment where I had David Kagino, and of course me and Linda Koskei, and the entire production team that made this one a success tonight. I do want to thank you so much for watching. All right, you have yourselves a lovely night. Let's do this again next time. Good night.